Hello and welcome back to Lumin Weekly. Yes, we're outside today. Have a look. That's the braai place over here, right here. That's where we make our barbecues or braais or grills or whatever you want to call it, braai. And I don't know, I'm just sitting outside because this is a stack of paper. There are quite a few pages here, and it's been, like, I would say one of the most popular Lumin Weeklies to date. So I don't think Helene wants me sitting in there like cramping her style for an hour long, because this is going to be a long one, and I'm happy about that. This was actually like one of the best responses I've gotten so far. One or two people in particular went totally like nuts on this, and I'm happy about that. It's going to be really interesting, and it's a nice day. It's a really nice day. You can listen to the sounds of nature here and the wind and these silly doves that just won't shut up. And Nero's over here too. He's going to be milling about here. You'll probably see him many times. So, retro gaming, games you were playing when you grew up, stuff like that. There were a lot of responses. Everyone seemed to enjoy it a lot. I don't know if it was the topic that was popular or if it was the fact that everyone needed to comment to get a magazine. But the magazine's a big given away, so now your comments are here and it's too late. You're gonna be featured. So, I've got this here, and this whole entire first page is just one person's comment and half of the second one. Thank you. So, I'm going to start. I'm going to jump straight in because this is going to take a while. I hope you can hear me alright. I hope it looks okay. The lighting is fine. I can't really see myself in the camera. There's a big reflection on here. But, first response was a message from Swescent or Swescent or something like that. I'm not good at these nicknames, okay? But he says, I'm going to read this whole thing now, and let me just give you a quick disclaimer. I am terrible at reading. Although I spend like most of my day reading my pulse scripts into the mic, I make so many mistakes doing that, so, you know, I'm just bad at reading. Overall, I don't know why. Maybe I just didn't read enough growing up, but I'm terrible at reading. So, disclaimer done. Let's get started. First of all, I'm 30 years old and I've been into computer gaming since before I knew what the color yellow was. Or quite close to that at least. I started out with a Commodore C64, which was only capable of games like Guess the Random Number and the like. Nice pause there. Perfect. After a year or so, I moved on to the Amiga 500 system, where I first came across the two old classics, Theme Park and the original The Settlers. Now those two games I can tell you a lot about as well. I loved Theme Park. It was one of those games where our entire family actually played Theme Park, and yes, you can hear the cars going by as well. My mother played Theme Park. She's not a computer gamer, she's into computers. Right now she's a bit of a geek. She's big on tech. Okay, but back then it was all sort of new to all of us. We got a PC that was pretty old, a 386, and it was super expensive at the time. Well, for us at least, okay? It was like a huge investment, or not an investment. It wasn't actually an investment. Maybe it was an investment now, because it sort of saw to my future. But anyway, back then it was a bit of a... it was a rare thing to have a computer. I think you all know that. And then Theme Park was like one of the games that the entire family played for some reason, and it was like my mother's dream to have a theme park in Japan, which was apparently, not apparently, it was like the #1 place to have a theme park because it was just so sought after. And I just remember it, and it cost something like 20 million or something to just buy the plot in Japan to make a theme park. And then it was so sad because when she bought the plot in Japan, then for some reason the game kept crashing. I think it was just too much for our computer to handle, and it was a sad ending to the Theme Park legacy there. Anyway, Theme Park was amazing. Great game. I love it. All the Bullfrog games were just great. Growing up, I played a lot of it was like the Blizzard of back then, for me at least. I know Blizzard was actually around back then, but I wasn't into Blizzard then. I was into Bullfrog. Anyway. And the Settlers, I mean, not much needs to be said about that. The old games were better than the newer ones, and that's that. So, both of these were really... This is going to take a long time, so another disclaimer. If you don't want to listen to Swescent's whole response, you better skip a few minutes ahead. But it's interesting, so I urge you to listen. So, both of these games are really amazing and stole a large portion of my days of youth right there. But even though they were both a blast to play, they did not even come close to the game that really made its mark as my first I can't believe I'm seeing this gaming experience. I had a few of those. I'll tell you in a few minutes what mine was. funny enough, it's close to the same kind of thing. The machine that was about to change my view on and faith in computer gaming forever to come was one of the first Pentium PCs, and yes, he says if they were called that. They were called Pentium. It was a 386 megahertz, 16 meg RAM, 320 meg hard drive PC, something like that at least. He says he can't remember. I mean, this must have been quite a few years ago. This was a demo computer standing in my hometown. Now let me try say Hudiksvall. Hudiksvall. Hudiksv. I think he's from Sweden. Hudiksvall. It's an old computer store called Go On. That's an interesting name for a computer store. And sorry that I'm looking at the paper the whole time. I can't do two things at the same time. Read and look at you guys. So it might not be as intimate as you'd like it, but hey, think of it as story time. A really bad story time. That computer was running a demo, I believe, of the first Tex Murphy game I ever saw. Tex Murphy Under a Killing Moon. Now, I do know what this game is. For those of you that don't know, I don't know if he's going to explain it. Yeah. Okay, wait. I've never seen anything like it. I had never seen anything like it on a computer before. A game with a full virtual 3D environment where you got to play a real person. Not only that, but the game came on no less than 4 CDs, which was huge back in those days, yes. Also featured full motion scenes as well, and watching that demo in the store blew my mind. So the game was one of those where it actually used real actors acting out scenes, and they played the videos in the game. So it was sort of like a piece of video cut out and pasted in a game, and you saw the guy. It was very weird, but back then it was all the rage and actually looked pretty good. I liked it. It was sort of a realistic take. And funny thing is, the whole computer gaming thing moved away from that. You hear that? Nero's getting angry right now. How it goes around the corner over there, and Nero's around there. There he goes. You see him? Can you see him? That's him. Okay, sorry, I have to show you that. Sorry, I'm interrupting Swessant here. Nero's interrupting him right now. There's some people walking past. Okay, that's why I wanted to be out here, you know? Action all the way. So, it was that kind of game. And I think those games were really interesting, and it's interesting how it's shifted away from that to now where everything is either CGI or gameplay, and they don't use real actors in games anymore. They do to act out what the virtual characters are doing, the 3D modeled characters or rendered characters are doing. It's very weird that it changed. And I wonder, I mean, is it ever going to go back to that? I doubt it, because the game engines and stuff are starting to look so real that... anyway, okay, I'm rambling. So, it just blew his mind. So I stood there watching the game with my jaw on the floor, not just the first time, but every time I walked into the store. So that became my childhood goal right there. That's a good goal. Not many months passed before I finally managed to generate and accumulate enough nagging to actually grant me a brand new PC computer up from his old Amiga. Might have been for a birthday, maybe. I'm sure you can't remember, because that must have been a while. I can't remember much of my childhood either. It's like, it just felt like a big blur to me. And my happiness burst every meter. Okay, so the total of actual months I spent in front of that game, I can't really even begin to tell you. One thing I value a lot now when looking back was the lack of internet back then. Under a Killing Moon was an investigation adventure game, which of course meant that I got stuck many times during my first playthrough. What today's youth might have done then would be open their favorite web client and just search for the solution and have their problem solved within seconds. I had no such luxury, if you can call it that, and actually had to consult my brains and intelligence instead, which prolonged my gaming immensely. Goodness, these dogs are making a noise. They do that. Nero does that. Every time I put my headset on to record, he gets totally crazy. He wants to make a noise. Now there are people over there talking too. So, I also agree with the whole lack of internet thing. It was different back then. The first time we got internet was something like 56k or something, and even then it was pretty expensive to use, so we didn't really even get to use it very much. Only certain times. And the game itself was so undescribably immersive. I was so amazed at the game world. You know, that's the kind of thing that one doesn't realize, but when you're younger, you get immersed in stuff like that much more. Nowadays, we're also skeptical, and we've seen so much that it doesn't really affect us in that way anymore. But anyway, In the game, I was so amazed by the game world, the environments, different weather, different times of day, to actually be able to walk around in Tex Murphy's office, open drawers, interacting with objects, with people, picking up stuff, moving around with the arrow keys, Nero boy, looking around with the mouse. I was spellbound by it all. There was also quite a bit of humor in the... There's a dog over here too. This is going to be very interesting. If you have dogs right now, take them out of the room quickly, because this is probably going to aggravate them big time. And now there's some sun shining on my face. Anyway. Now, where was I? I was spellbound by it all. There was also quite a bit of humor put into the full motion video sequences as well, and I ended up starting over time and time again just to rewatch some of the videos, which was the reason why I hardly got beyond 5% of the game during the first weeks of playing. That sounds like me. I was sort of a perfectionist as well back then. That was also very low. That was also very lovely. Was my what was also very lovely was my young age. Yes. Sorry, bad at reading. You remember those early childhood years where you didn't have a very good grasp of dates and time? I was just saying that. Yes. How many days before left before this or that? What hour of the day was it, etc. At least I had a period of my childhood where I had about no sense of time at all. I relied solely on my parents informing me of dinner, bedtime, how much longer I could stay up, etc. By not having fully developed a sense of time as a constant distraction. It sometimes felt as if I was spending short eternities within the game, which really pulled me in and gave me a much deeper and fulfilling gaming experience that I could never hope for today. It's as I said, when you were younger, everything was just that much more exciting. It was all just amazing, an era of my life which I would go back to and relive again. I would definitely do that as well. I don't know if I'd change things. I don't know if I want to do it differently, but it was great. Tex Murphy Under a Killing Moon really plowed the way for the potential I could see for computer games to come, and it was a game I really believe made an impact on my life. It's great that he actually wrote such a long piece on this one game. I mean, there are games like that for many of us that's what changed a lot of who we are and how we saw things in the future, how we perceived games and our take on gaming. So it piqued my interest in computer gaming, and there's a big potential that spare time hobbies would... Wait, sorry, I read that totally wrong. It piqued my interest in computer gaming, and there's a big potential that my spare time hobbies would differently portioned today hadn't I come across that game. Yeah. That happens to everyone. So he wrote another piece here just saying thank you for what I was doing in the Lumin Weekly and how he enjoyed it. And I mean, Swissant or Swissant or whatever, thank you very much for this. Like, some of the people might not appreciate it, but I definitely do. It's interesting hearing about this stuff. If you guys have a few minutes spare, just YouTube Tex Murphy Under a Killing Moon. It might not look so good now, but just think about the fact that it was back then. I should tell you guys that I was born in 1985, but I can't call myself an 80s baby. I would say I'm a 90s child. Like, I grew up in the 90s. Your first 5 years of your life, you're not that cognizant of what's happening. I would say that in the 90s, most of my action happened. I spent most of my time in front of the computer in the 90s, I guess. Well, now I spend a lot more anyway, but you know what I'm saying. Just so you guys know. Okay, so that was Swesson's reply. If you have anything to say about that, please leave a comment. I'm sure he'd appreciate it, because that's a pretty cool story. But there are more. That was the first one. Okay. Our neighbors are probably not enjoying this very much. To hell with them. Anyway. Okay, Fenovids. Here we go. Next one. When I was 6 to 7 years old, running around New York City. Now that's like a great start to the story. I'd love to be 6 or 7 years old running around New York. We all played Pokemon. Red and blue. Biznatches. I love that word. I was the king of the block because I was the first to realize that psychic types were massively overpowered. Then we all went to my friend's house. He had an N64, which made him God. N64s were amazing. They were one of the first proper consoles to really use the 3D properly, I suppose. We all played Pokemon Stadium, Mario 64, Donkey Kong 64, and the MLB baseball games. It was great to live in the Bronx and be able to ride my bike to the Yankee Stadium, the old one. Oh my god, oh wait, sorry, that was the one comment. Then he's like, oh my god, how could I forget Star Fox? I do remember Star Fox as well. I didn't play it very much, but I do know the game. That was the first game I played ever. but not the first one I played seriously. A friend of mine's older brother had a Super Nintendo, so I would play that at 5 minutes at a time when I was a toddler. Man, I would have loved to have played games when I was a toddler. I was a bit older than that when I started. The rest of my posts are true about serious gaming, but not my first game ever. So, or to go play the N64 game with the 1998 Yankees. That was the first and only time any adults I knew got into gaming. I don't know what that is, 1998 Yankees game? I'm not sure what you're saying there. My friend's dad, a Mets fan, would watch us play a virtual Subway series like it was a real game. My parents also sort of got into it. They also really enjoyed it. I've got some juice here. Guava juice. Cheers. It's incredibly thick. It's nice though. There's a lot of reading to go, so I need some juice. Nero boy! It's enough. It's okay. He's very serious about protecting us when we're out here. There he comes. Okay. So, next. Thank you, Finovids. It's interesting. New York City is amazing. Right? It just sounds like such a dream to me to run around there playing Pokemon on your Nintendos. I mean, that's like, even today, we got our first, like, I've got a Nintendo 3DS now. My parents brought it back from overseas because it was ridiculously cheap there, apparently. And yes, that's how expensive stuff are here. And it's the first DS I've ever owned. So I'm like incredibly, incredibly grateful for it. And it's like the holy grail in this house at the moment. It's actually more my girlfriend's than mine. It's hers. But I get to play it as well. And it's the first Pokemon game I've ever owned. So I can totally appreciate that. Then, Red Sand. He says, and I started out playing Resident Evil, Zelda, and Final Fantasy. I hope I didn't miss some of your comment there. From there, Final Fantasy was amazing, obviously. I don't even need to talk about Final Fantasy. You guys know that. I found Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. That's also cool. I played these games and others like them until Final Fantasy X came out. That was amazing too. I love that game and still do. Final Fantasy X is pretty new, but I think Red Sand's pretty young. So it's like our times are a bit spent. Like for me, the first Final Fantasy I played was 7, probably 7, but my first serious one was actually 8. I played 7 on a friend's PC. Okay, and that's not even so long ago either. So, but he said he did start out playing Final Fantasy 7. I suppose he just took 10 more seriously. I love the game and I still do. Then WoW came out and I played that and got into MMOs and other such games. What do you think of that list? That's a good list of games, okay? I'm not so into the fighting games. Final Fantasy is amazing, obviously. Zelda, I haven't played very much myself. I played a lot of Resident Evil before. And obviously WoW and MMOs, stuff like that, it's different. They're obviously amazing games, but it's a lot different. And I've got some talking to do about MMOs later, don't worry. So I'll get into that. Then Divine says GoldenEye N64. That was a big game for lots of people. Diablo 1 and 2, Twisted Metal 1 to 4. I played a lot of Twisted Metal as well. We played split screen as far as I can remember, and many, many more. Too much to list right now, and too much to list right here. So those are still quite good games that he listed. Then the Sophera. When I was a kid, our family didn't have a PC. It hadn't really taken off for games yet. It was still viewed as a business tool. My first computer was a Amstrad CPC 464. I don't even know what that is. Sounds quite complicated though. Must have been good at the time. And one of my favorite games on it was Gauntlet. I played it a ton. Being a home computer, it didn't have much processing power as the arcade version, so you didn't get the green elf needs food... What? So you didn't get the green elf needs food badly voice. I'm not sure what that is. I didn't play Gauntlet. Okay, I don't know what that is, but I think you did ask about that later, so I'll answer that question a bit later. In fact, I'd never seen the arcade version until recently. Interesting. And the Sophera did... The questions are like all the way at the end, so I'll answer them at the end. Then Buo Goatee. I'm not sure if that's your nickname. I think that's right. When I was a kid, I played Super Mario Bros. 1, 2, and 3. Later, I skipped the NES and played Ocarina of Time. GoldenEye Ocarina of Time is apparently best game ever. I haven't played it. I shouldn't be saying that out loud. I really shouldn't. GoldenEye, Majora's Mask on the N64, Diablo 2, Warcraft, Silver, and StarCraft was the PC games I enjoyed the most. I think he left a question about Silver later as well, and I'll get to that then. Free Kills So. or Free Kills Zoe. When I was younger, I played mostly Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 and Halo. A little bit later, my interest came to StarCraft Brood War, and I played it a lot against the computer and some tower defense now and then. Obviously, StarCraft Brood War is a huge thing for many, many people. So then, Edenite. I played 2 games religiously. One, XCOM. This was utterly game-breaking. It had multiple progression via techs, troops, bases, ships, etc. I still play it to this day. It's an awesome game. I think I know XCOM. It's that turn-based thing with the aliens. It is pretty cool. I think I remember it. Dune 2, the genesis of RTS games. I was addicted to the lore of the game and went on to read Frank Herbert's Dune and later study it again at university. That's cool. I would love to do something like that at university. I did enjoy Dune as well. I played Dune. I played it around the same time as Red Alert as well. I don't know if they came out at the same time, but I did enjoy those games a lot. I played a lot of Red Alert 2. Those tank battles, it was all just tanks, lots and lots of tanks. And it was like, to me it felt like such a macro game. I didn't remember it, I didn't understand it back then, but it was all about who could build the most factories or tank factories or whatever, get the most income and build enough tanks. It was all about getting the most units, not about controlling them, just a lot of units. I honestly think that Dune 2 remake within StarCraft 2 editor would be fantastic. There you go, guys, make that. Then Ginny 11. I played Missile Command and Space Invaders on an Atari console. Games like that. My older brother had an Amiga. I'll name a few games for that. Cannon Fodder, Barbarian, Hired Guns, Another World, and the Turrican series, and Flashback. I don't know what those games are. I don't know. I don't know any of them. Some of my favorites, Pinball Fantasies. When I was a bit older, I don't know, pinball, I'm not a big fan of pinball, but I mean, it can be enjoyable. I like playing it in the arcade, the real ones. Anyway, when I was a bit older, around 10 I think, I got a SNES. The only time I ever played SNES was emulators, and that's like such a weak version of it, but anyway. That one, SNES games were Mario World, Mario Kart, Mega Man X, and Metroid. Got into PC gaming when Wolfenstein 3D came out, and my favorites on PC were Quake 1, Doom, Duke 3D, and Command & Conquer 1. Those are amazing games right there. Every single one of those I played, and I played them religiously, like a lot. Quake 1 or Quake World, the deathmatch version of that, I played that to bits. The Quake series had a huge impact on my life, and I'm going to answer more on that a bit later as well, so stay tuned. Then, Mr. Batboy. I played Doom, Heretic, Quake, Red Alert, and StarCraft. Again, same games, amazing games. Heretic is also quite good, like one of the better games out there. He says, they were amazing in my opinion. I've always been a PC gamer and I always will be. Just bought Doom and Heretic on Steam, on the Steam sale. That's cool. I didn't buy them, sadly. I didn't have money to spend a lot on those games, but I do have Doom 3, which is the newest one, but it's not really the same, is it? Those games were amazing though. Although I do have Doom on it. Never mind, I'm getting sidetracked here. Doom 1. It's really fun to play those games again. Those were the days. I don't know, it is fun to go back and play them, but sometimes you just don't get the same feeling, obviously. My first game was Doom. When I was about 5 or 6, that must have been scary. I played with my dad. He was walking and aiming and I was shooting. That was really fun. What do you think of these games? I just told you what I think. I do like the fact that you got to play with your dad. My dad wasn't really interested in gaming. He was interested in farming. And he had a lot of other stuff to do. I don't think he had the time. So, Cole Blemming says, first game I really got into was Ultima 3 Exodus. That's amazing. I wish I got into that. I started on Ultima 7 on a C64. Also Load Runner, that is also really cool, on an Apple II. I had an Amiga after that, and the best games I had were Arctic Fox, a 3D tank simulation game, and Mega Ball, a Breakout clone with lots of power-ups and levels. I'm not sure what those are. Next obsession was Warcraft 2, obviously. After solving it and making my own maps. That's cool as well. The map editing thing is really cool. I hope you're still into that now. Maybe you can make that Dune thing we were talking about before. Next big one was Diablo 2, which I still play. Obviously, everyone still plays that. I think I've done everything you can possibly do in that game, except PvP. So, Spider Present. I love that nickname. Hey, Spider Present. Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Those were two of the first games I played on the Sega Mega Drive as well. He says on the Sega Mega Drive they were my first gaming experience. I played it at a friend's house. They were pretty amazing. I always wanted to find time in front of his TV, which was pretty rude of me, but it was just worth it. Then I moved to the PlayStation, Crash Bandicoot, Crash Team Racing, Crash Bash, Hogs of War. Hogs of War was pretty fun, which was my personal favorite, and the Army Men series. I didn't play those, but Hogs of War was pretty cool. Nintendo Game Boy and the Pokemon series. They bring back a lot of happy memories. If I could go back in time. The Pokemon stuff, man. I think everyone out there, I'm spitting on these papers, not important. Everyone out there that actually played them would probably think that they were happy memories and they were a good time in their lives. I can relate. Pokemon, it's been a dream for me, like for the last 10 years. I could never afford a Nintendo DS of any sort, or a Game Boy or anything like that. And I didn't want to really like bug people or bug anyone to get it for me, so the closest I ever got was playing on an emulator, and just recently we got one, as I just said, and it's absolutely amazing. I can't ever find enough time to spend on it. I've only played like an hour or two at most on Pokemon White or Black. White, I've got Pokemon White, and it's just so good. It's just absolutely amazing, and I'm grateful that for the fact that my parents got it for us, and it's, yeah, that's it. So, your pronunciation of that name, it was a noble try. He's talking about the Malmsteen guy. I'm going to get to that later. Yeah, don't worry. I'll get to that. Someone else told me how to pronounce it at the end. I'll put it with the questions. I was PC-less when I was younger. Listen to these birds. They're crazy. You're crazy. I was PC-less at a younger age, so my introduction to old PC games was very limited. When I was little, I had a very old NES. I don't know, I wasn't exposed to those consoles as much as you guys seem to have been. I started on PCs and I've been on PCs for a long... Well, I didn't start on PCs, I started on TV games. Someone told me last time what it was called, actually the technical name for it, with like Tetris and that tank game and Mario and like the old games. Contra was where you put the cartridge in, you know, and then you got to keep like, sometimes the cartridge doesn't work and you got to take it out and rub it with the eraser to make it. It was crazy. Those were the days. So, when I was little I had old NES, games like Mario, Battletoads, Spy vs. Spy, that sort of thing. Sorry, I'm forgetting how to talk here. A box full of games, too many to list. I actually still have it along with the games. I think we've also still got ours. Maybe I'll do a segment on that someday, on the old games that we used to play. Man, I wonder if that'll still work. Let's hope so. Other games, our controllers actually got totally worn out. Sadly, we played a lot. We're Street Fighter, Mega Man, Street Fighter in the arcade and Mega Man. The arcade games were also always quite fun, but we never really did that when we were younger. There weren't very many arcades in South Africa. The Griots, next question. That was from Downside, the previous one. Sorry, I'm forgetting the names. Then, the Griots, the only thing I remember from retro gaming is some kind of taxi driving game on the Sega machine when I was very young, and I don't remember so much. I think a lot of us have problem remembering stuff like that. I don't know what that is. If anyone knows a taxi driving game on the Sega, let us know. My first games were... This is Craft Chest. Craft Chest. Represent... Hey, boy. This is Nero, and he's absolutely cooking here. Hey, boy. Nero's first games were Run with a Rope and Fetch. So, my first games were Berserker, Tank, Asteroids, the very first Zelda games on the Atari 2, sold by Sears. And his mom got it at a garage sale. That's nice of her. My very first game thingy was a Tandy 1000 with a code writing book, and the storage was on a cassette tape. What? That's weird. I don't even know what that is. I made my own games and whatnot. I would spend days making stuff. That's crazy. And that's a nice way of getting into it, because you got the sort of more creative approach to the whole thing. I think that your parents were probably more happy about that. Their child was doing stuff, not just playing games. Anyway, LM No Pie. I'm not sure what kind of nickname that is. He says, I was born to be a gamer. My first game was Mario. My first sentence was, it's me. It's a me, Mario. It's a me, Mario. I don't know how to say that like Mario, but I think that's what he's trying to say. I wish that was my first sentence. Are you Italian by any chance? Are you a plumber today? Anyway, my first system was a Nintendo 64, and my first games were Mario, Donkey Kong, Conker's Bad Fur Day, and The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Amazing list of first games there. Then, Zeiss Chill. I was born to be a PC gamer. I think we just said that. He said it as well. When I was 6, I began to use his PC. His first games were called Bubble Bobble, an arcade game. Then I moved on to FPS in a game called CEO. It's kind of... What? CEO. It's kind of World of Tanks for Windows 98. Cool. Since then I never bought a console, and I've only played PC games such as Maple Story, Gunbound, Guns. I think all three of those are MMOs. Cabal, also an MMO. CS, StarCraft 1, StarCraft 2, WoW, Warcraft 3, Hon, LOL, Dota, Minecraft, etc. That's quite a list of games right there. Not bad. And I think all of you know what all those are. Then, next, Mapza. And yes, we're getting close to the end. This is the second last page. Okay? We're halfway down the second last page already. So, hang in there. I need to hang in there. Am I going to make it? I don't know. Possibly. I've still got some guava juice. Then, Mapsa. I can't remember the first names of the games I played. They were all in Swedish, but it was one game that sucked many hours of my childhood away. Heroes 3. Amen, brother. Me and a couple of friends used to play that hot seat. Those were the days. And what made hot seat really sad was the fact that your opponent was sitting right next to you. So my buddy was sitting here, I was sitting here, and we were like staring at the screen, and I was like, okay, he's doing that. What am I going to do to counter that? And we were like plotting and scheming away there to try and beat each other, but we could see that was terrible. So more often than not, we played co-op against the AI because it's just so bad sitting right next to your opponent and play. Well, it was good, but bad at the same time. Anyway, Heroes 3. And at first, I only watched when my cousins played it. Later, I started playing with my friends and built lots of cool maps in the editor. I've got two cousins that are quite young. Well, they're not quite young anymore. I still see them as young sometimes, but they're quite old now. I think my one is... He must be 17 and the other one's a bit younger. They also used to come and watch me play computer games when they were younger. We babysat them. Didn't really babysit them. I sat and played games and they watched. And I'm quite happy for the fact that they enjoyed it as much as they did, because they got into computer gaming and gaming in general after that. And I don't know if they're appreciative of that fact. Maybe they would have liked to have done something else with their life. But I think that both of them have learned a lot from just watching me play. And like, it's nothing to do with me. Like, I just sat and played, and they were the ones who were probably just enjoying it a lot more than I was. Anyway, they watched me play a lot. Games like Warcraft 3, Quake, no, not so much StarCraft. Those before StarCraft. Well, before StarCraft 2. They watched us play games, basically. And it got them into gaming, and I think that because of that, they've definitely expanded their horizons. They could probably get nice jobs in game development, because the one of them is like really into that side of the stuff, and the other one is getting really good at StarCraft. So anyway, it's funny how family sort of, yeah. I'm not going to go on about that now. I can talk for ages about that. Anyway, so then he says Super Mario 64 was before I had a computer, so that was my first console game, and I have a lot of good memories from that game too. I think a lot of people have said the Super Mario 64 was pretty big influence on most of their lives. Cheers again, I hope you guys are making it through here. Then, X Monica 87GX. Oh my god, my first game so long ago. I think it was Pokemon Sapphire. All the Pokemon games are like, I don't want to say the same, but they have the same effect. They were all absolutely amazing. Doesn't matter which one it was. I don't know really. I remember I was like 4 and I got a flat pink Nintendo. That must have been amazing. I forgot what it's called. And I played it. I actually really loved it, and it had cool music and great graphics for the time. I bet it did. Not to sound stupid, but what's StarCraft? There's no such thing as sounding stupid. Like, StarCraft is a RTS game. Sorry. A real-time strategy game, and you probably see it all over YouTube by now. I'm sure there are adverts on TV already. It's very popular in the esports scene, so people are playing it competitively, professionally. You can just search on YouTube for StarCraft and you'll see, like, you can just search for what is StarCraft and you'll see even better responses to that. But it's good if you don't know what it is, because it'll just be even more exciting finding out. Then, thanks for the comments so far, by the way. I haven't said that yet. Merkrust, also quite a cool nickname that. I like it. Creative. Well, not all the others are as well, obviously, but Merkrust. My first games were on the PC. One of two monkeys throwing bananas at each other. I don't know what that is. Prince. I think he means Prince of Persia. I'm not sure, or is it just Prince? I don't know. If it's just Prince. Prince is a pop singer, isn't he? He's called Symbol now, formerly known as Prince. Yes, I know my stuff. And or maybe I don't, maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, Pipe Dream, I don't know what those are. Like most of the middle class boys my age and the country, and of my country, that game that hooked us the most was Age of Empires and Mario 64. We played a lot of Age of Empires when we were younger as well. Friends of mine, we landed, one of the first RTS games that we land. Interesting stuff. Then Rage 487. Technically I'm still growing up for just a couple more years, but I will play pretty much any well-developed game that comes out. Same for me. I play any well-developed game and lots of badly developed games too. I just play a lot of games in general, I think. I'll also probably buy any sequels to any well-developed games too, if I have the money to buy them as well. My first and favorite game of all time is My first favorite game of all time was The Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Amazing game. He actually asked about Oblivion later, so I'll get to that question. Then Mr. Steve Mojo. Thinking back on my first gaming experience takes me way back. I'm talking... Wait a minute, I need to read this. Takes me way back. I'm talking way of the exploded fist on the Amstrad 464 green screen. I don't even know what Way of the Exploding Fist is. It sounds like a karate game. It was cutting edge back then and I really enjoyed my time with it. Happy memories. Started getting more competitive with Kickoff 2 on the Commodore 64 with friends, and then I was blown away by Tomb Raider on the PS1. I was too scared to play the first bit. I even remember the start of the game. You start in this cave, and then you had to get attacked by these two wolves, and I fought those wolves, and then I was too scared to go on, and that was where I stopped. I hardly played further than that. I couldn't play that game alone. It wasn't even very scary. Maybe I was just meek at the time, but I'm still to this date quite scared of playing. I don't know, I don't like playing scary games. I think I'll probably... Never mind. Okay. So, things have come a long way since then. I'm still reading from the paper, by the way. And sorry about the lack of eye contact. Things have come a long way since then, but I think I always loved gaming, especially with full-on immersive games like StarCraft 2 and WoW. Thanks, Blizzard. He said that, and I agree with it. Then, Makeup Fap. Nice nickname there. Okay. First game I ever played was when I was around 8, and I bagged for Super Nintendo. It was what seemed like... What? And I bagged for Super Nintendo for what seemed like a year. I finally got it... Oh, he saved for it, I suppose. And the game it came with was Mega Man X. The best game ever. The games we played back then were definitely the best games ever, I think. I even bought a copy off eBay for $50 to play on my Super Nintendo. Emulators just didn't cut it. Absolutely right there. Emulators, they still don't cut it. I can play Pokemon on my PC, but it's just not the same. So, Prozerg SC. First games he played were Tribes, Half-Life, Populous, and StarCraft. Funny, those are actually some of the games I played too. Half-Life was absolutely amazing when it came out. It blew my mind. Half-Life 1, the graphics, the single player, everything. Tribes was great. I loved the Tribes multiplayer. One of the first games I played at a big LAN was Tribes. Populous was cool too. I think my mom even played Populous. It was a nice game. It was really good. And and StarCraft, obviously. Don't even need to say anything about that. I actually didn't really enjoy StarCraft that much when I first played it. Instead, I used to bodyboard a lot. He's from South Africa, okay? Us South Africans, I used to bodyboard as well. I used to go like to the beach a lot. I don't do it anymore, sadly. Oh. Anyway, but my dad always wanted to play against me. So after I got a bit better, I started to really enjoy it. He played StarCraft against his dad. That's absolutely amazing. I wish I could do that too. Anyway, so I didn't actually enjoy StarCraft 1 at first either. Funny enough. I don't enjoy StarCraft 1 to this day. I like StarCraft 2 a lot more. Then, Remy Sojiro. Having grown up in the 80s, Super Mario Bros. And The Legend of Zelda were among my first gaming experiences. Some may call it the golden age of gaming, and that's true. And what a time it was. But one thing's certain, it solidified my love of gaming till this day. I read this so badly, it doesn't do justice to how well he wrote it. His punctuation was perfect. He just wrote this like a boss. I can't show it to you. Anyway. Nero, you better go tell them. Go. He's about to stop barking. Okay. Then came the SNES, which I got on Christmas back in the day, and it was my very first console that was mine. All things relative, it was my favorite console. The 34 and 64-bit era was when I finally was finally able to buy all consoles. On the PC front, simple Q-basic games such as Gorillas and Snake were among my first. Oh, and Battle Chess. Warcraft, Starcraft, and Diablo were some of my most memorable early PC gaming experiences as well. I really enjoyed the Ultima series too, although when it came to WRPG games, his time sync had to be the original Evercrack. That's EverQuest. And like, yes, EverQuest, a lot of people actually got into that, and it's surprising that you're the first one to mention it. And there's more on that later. Wait, more on that later. Ha, good times. Can't wait to see what you have to say about your gaming experiences with Ultima. Funny thing is, I started on Ultima, I'm going to tell you that now, because I started on Ultima 7 and we got the CD, okay? We got the CD with our first computer. It came bundled with a PC, and it was a 386 or 486, one of the two, I can't remember. And we got Ultima 7 on there, Wing Commander, the first Descent, Ultima Underworld, Ultima 8, so Ultima 7 and 8 on there. And a couple of others. I can't remember them all. So, sorry, I'm burping. Edit that part out, please. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to edit it out. It's that guava juice, damn it. So those are the first game. Ultima 7 and Ultima Underworld, my first two. And both myself and my sister played it. Oh, and Savage Empire. That's also same people who made it in the same sort of universe, not in the same world, but it's sort of the same. Savage Empire was absolutely amazing. And I really got into it because at first it got me into storytelling on a whole. You guys might not know this, but I have done a lot of like storytelling in my time. I've written like a big portion of a book already, and I've got my whole world set up, which is I draw a lot from it when I do stuff like the whole Tales of Lumin thing and Lumite, and I'm actually releasing another thing soon for Terraria, which is going to be tied in with that. It got me into storytelling, and it sort of made me appreciate the fact that games can actually be as immersive as they are, and that people can actually tell proper stories within a game. The Ultima series, all of them were just so well done. And I just liked that fantasy style of game. So it was really immersive for me, and it was just absolutely amazing. And both myself and my sister, we enjoyed it. It was one of the things we had in common when we were younger. We spent a lot of time together. Instead of like playing outside, we played outside a lot. We lived on farms. But yeah, we played a lot of games together as well. Ultima Underworld was too scary to play alone, so I didn't play that much of that. I should probably go back and play it now. But yeah, I can't say much more about the Ultima series. It was absolutely amazing. And then when I got a proper PC a bit later on, Ultima 9 was just the ultimate time sink as well. Ultima 9 Ascension was just, at the time, it was amazingly good looking. My PC couldn't run it on full graphics, but I still played it. I played it to death. It was so great. Anyway, next, KK Plix. First game was Chips Challenge for him on Windows 3.1. Still running around in 2D dungeons and collecting chips was so much fun and so hard. I remember that. Games were always hard back then. I still remember how rooms screwed me over, but also had so much diversity in the enemies and obstacles there were. First games on Windows 95 and the next OS was Settlers 2 and Age of Empires. I spoke about those before. Amazing games. They are the reason I love strategy games. I was playing them forever, sometimes getting up early to play. He was 8 years old at the time. So, that's all the comments that you left. I've got a lot of questions here now. There you go. This is the last little bit now. We're in the home stretch, guys. Ah, I'm on the last page. Hey! I'm sorry about the length of this. I hope I'm going to be able to render it. It's going to take forever. I don't even know what I'm going to do. I'll take Nero for a walk when I'm rendering. Okay, the Killer Prodigy, he asks. So we're on to the questions now. Oh, he said, just so you know, it's pronounced Yngwie Malmsteen. I think, or Yngwie. Yngwie or Yngwie. Yngwie Malmsteen, thank you. I didn't know that, and the guy's great. And then, Wanamingo27 asks, are you a brony? Is that a My Little Pony bro, like a Brotos brony? I dig My Little Ponies, okay? I don't know, I don't know them well or anything like that, but I'd sit down and watch an episode of that any day. Bob T. Godfish said he sent me a PM with his stuff, but Bob T, I didn't get your PM. I don't know, maybe you sent it and it didn't get to me, but I'm sure Bob T had a lot of good stuff to say about this, and if he does send me one again, it's not a big deal if you didn't, maybe you didn't find time, but if you do send me one, I'll just feature it next week. Then Bua Goti, did you ever play an RPG named Silver? Don't get me started on that. Silver was amazing. Silver was like a fusion between Final Fantasy and Diablo. It was like, it had a Final Fantasy-ish engine where you had these static backgrounds and 3D characters moving around on them. And a friend of mine, his name is Marcel, I don't know if he watches my videos, I very much doubt it, but he got Silver and he had a much better PC than me at the time. And I was so jealous of that because it was an absolutely amazing game. And the graphics were super good, the story seemed pretty fun, and it just felt so solid, smacking around the enemies. So it was like Final Fantasy, just real time. You didn't phase into a fight and then it was turn-based. It was like a real-time version of Final Fantasy, and it was absolutely amazing. Do yourselves a favor and check out Silver. Silver, like the color or the metal. Check that out on YouTube. So, I did play it, yes. And then Sophia asked, did you play Gauntlet? I did say before I didn't play that, sorry. I don't know. I'll look what it is after this. I wanted to do this honestly. I didn't want to go and do research on every single game. I'd prefer to just answer it, you know, the way I know it. So, then Free Killzo. How did you get into StarCraft 2? I think I've answered this before. Pretty much, I started on Warcraft 3, and because it was sort of to me a logical next step, I played a lot of Warcraft 3. I started on the single player, then I played it online like a ton. I was pretty good at Warcraft. I wasn't like the best in the country or anything like that, but I was pretty good. And because it was so micro-intensive, I think I learned a lot, and my control in StarCraft 2, my micro in StarCraft 2 is a lot better than it would have been if I didn't play it. So I just jumped from Warcraft 3 straight over to StarCraft, and I don't know, like I said, logical next step. I absolutely enjoyed Warcraft, and I love StarCraft 2. When the beta came out, I just couldn't resist. Then Mapsa, what was your most time-consuming PC and television games? When I was a lot younger, I'd say the Ultima games, Ultima 7, but most time-consuming, looking at the amount of time, I'd say Quake. Quake 3 Arena and Warcraft 3. They would sort of be tied, but I'm pretty good at Quake. Okay, maybe I'll release a video of me playing Quake live so you can see, but I'm decent. I'm not a super pro, but I'm much better than average. I played it a lot. I probably spent, like, when I was younger, a couple of hours, 5-6 hours a day playing Quake against bots, playing it against friends. When my friends came here, they were so irritated by the fact that I forced them to play Quake against me every time they came. Even if I beat them to a pulp, I still wanted to play against them every single time because it was so different playing against real people than playing against the bots. Even the most difficult bots were, like, they were silly. They were really easy to beat, and it was more fun playing against real people. Then I got a friend who actually enjoyed FPS games. He's our tenant right now. He lives here, and I played for we logged into Quake 3 Arena. We opened the game up. I made a dedicated server. We both joined it. We were LANing. He sat right next to me. We could see each other's screens. It didn't matter because we were just playing it to have fun, and we just left the game in warm-up mode, and we just played like for hours and hours on end. We just killed each other, spawned, killed each other, spawned, and we both got pretty good at it. He's absolutely amazing at Counter-Strike and any FPS games in general because of that, and I'm absolutely amazing at Quake. Look at me, tooting my own horn here. I'm pretty good at Quake because of that. I'd say he's got a definite edge in Counter-Strike because he played that a lot more than me, but I've got a bit of an edge in Quake then again. And I think Quake helped me a lot. My timing in Quake was really good as well. I can time items really well. You know, it changed a lot of things in my gaming future because of Quake. I think I got a big advantage in other games, like because I've got a good sense of time when it comes to games. I can tell you exactly when 30 seconds passed, when 45 seconds passed, and when a minute passes because of time in the armors and the mega healths and stuff like that in Quake. So it was a lot of fun. That was probably one of the most influential games in my gaming history. Quake 3, Quake Live. It sucks that Quake Live is what it is now. I preferred Quake 3, it felt much more solid, but you gotta play Quake Live now because everyone else does. I haven't played for a while, but I logged in a little while ago and I checked it out. I can still do everything I did do back then. I'm probably just a bit rusty, but it's a lot of fun. If you guys like Quake, leave me a comment telling me that. I hope I'm not alone. Then, what computer specs do you have? He says, sorry for the off topic. That's from Lynx MX. I have a i7-860. It's probably around 3 gigahertz, like i7-860. I've got 8 gigs of RAM, and that's mostly for the video rendering. Pretty fast RAM, I think it's 2100 megahertz. Fast RAM. I've got a lot of hard drive space, probably around 3 terabytes altogether, and that's for all the fraps in and video stuff as well. I've got a GTX 465, NVIDIA GTX 465. The graphics card is very good. It works well. It's a 1 gig graphics card. Other than that, I've got a 24-inch screen. I only recently got a widescreen for the first time. It's absolutely amazing. A really nice one. I think it's a Samsung BX245. I'm guessing now, but it's a nice 24-inch screen. I use a I know you didn't ask about this, but I use a Razer Octosa keyboard. I'm gonna get myself a SteelSeries mechanical keyboard when this one ends, because it was really cheap and it's probably not gonna last forever. And I use a SteelSeries Xi mouse. That's why it clicks so loud. What else is there to know? That's it. That's my computer specs. Let's see. Maps I asked already. ProZerg SC, this is the absolute last question. Wow, we're at the end. My question is, what do you think about the Elder Scrolls games? I think they're awesome. I think they're awesome too. Cheers. Cheers to that. Elder Scrolls, awesome. No, that's not the end of my question. I gotta say I preferred Morrowind. No, actually, they're equal. Morrowind, to me, felt like a much deeper game. It felt like the story was more solid, more immersive maybe. But then you look at Oblivion and you can't help but appreciate the fact that it looks as good as it does. One of the best looking games to date. It still looks absolutely amazing to this day. What's that piece of paper? Anyway, I love them. I love the Elder Scrolls games. They're really good, and I would still play it to this day. We've got Elder Scrolls Game of the Year edition on PlayStation 3, and I love it. It's a really good game. I went back to play Daggerfall the other day, and that's just not what it used to be. Okay, it's not as nice. It's sort of like, well, it's good. Obviously, it's an amazing game, but it's not the same anymore. It's not like playing Morrowind, where you can get as immersed in it, because I suppose the graphics, we sort of, I want to say we've become too pampered, so going back to an old game now just won't feel the same as it was back then. But I do like the games, and I can't really say much more about that. I can't wait for Skyrim. So that's all the questions, all the responses that you got. I'm sorry that the video was so long once again. I've been sitting here for so long, and don't even ask me how I did it, but I did. And my topic for next week is going to be sticking with gaming. I said that I was going to talk about MMOs, so that's what I want to do next week. I want to talk about MMOs. So, which MMOs are you into? Do you think that, these are the questions that I'm giving you. Do you think that there are so many MMOs coming out nowadays? Let me just explain my situation here. That there's like 1 or 2 every month, new ones coming out. Are they not as special anymore? I mean, back in the day, people seemed to be much more influenced by games like Ultima Online or EverQuest. Do you think we've been sort of, has it been dumbed down? Are we just not as sensitive to that? I mean, has it like, have the amount of new games that come out ruined it for us? I mean, there's so much to talk about MMOs. Old MMOs just seemed so much more immersive. I played a bit of Ultima Online. It wasn't a big time sink for me because we didn't have internet back then, and I couldn't really get into it. But I do know that the games back then just felt so much more solid and so much more immersive than they are today. I mean, I'm not going to bash on WoW or Rift or any of the games that are out now and doing really well, but what do you think about like the fact that everything seems to be shifting to online gaming, to MMOs, to these persistent online worlds, as they like to call them? Do you wish that the games would be as they were back then? Do you think that the games nowadays are better? Do you think the games back then were better? Like, there's so much to actually talk about here, and I'm sort of babbling about it. I'm not really giving you a clear and defined question, but I just wanted to talk about MMOs. And you can ask me what I think about any MMOs coming out today. You can tell me what you're excited about. I know we've spoken about MMOs before, but I want to get a bit more in-depthly again, there's that word. But I want to talk about it a little bit more. So, like, did you play Ultima Online? Did you play, like, there are some games that have these hardcore followings that still exist to this day. People are still playing Ultima Online. That's a fact. And do you think that the people are just rushing games out, like just to have the game out there, to make that money from the subscription? All the games are moving to free to play now as well because it's the new in thing. I don't know, there's a lot to talk about. What do you think about MMOs on the whole? Do you think that gaming is every single game that we're going to be playing in the future is going to be online? I mean, nowadays it's actually rare to find a single player game that you really enjoy and that really immerses you. I mean, I have the same problem. I start playing a game and if it's not really good, if it's not really immersive, I probably end up stopping after 10 or 15 minutes because that's it. It's just not the same as playing online, playing with your friends. So what do you think about MMOs? What do you think about the old MMOs compared to the new MMOs? I think that's probably a better way of putting it. It's a very broad question, but I think that's what we're going to go with. If you want to ask any questions at all about MMOs, about me, about this, about anything, go ahead. I'll answer them gladly. But that's going to be it. I'm going to go walk Nero now. It's going to be nice. The weather's good. And, sorry, I'm just looking at the dog back there. Nero's arch enemy. He lives over the road, over here. But that's going to be it. Thanks for watching. If you made it through the whole thing, I'm absolutely impressed by you. You can leave a comment telling me that you made it through the whole thing because that would be really amazing. I think Helene's probably going to like gasp at the fact that I sat here for so long talking. I hope you all have a great weekend. I'm not sure how long this is going to take to upload. I'm not sure if it's going to be able to upload because it's going to be huge, but that's it. MMOs next week. Tell me about it. Again, thanks for watching and happy nice sunny day.